Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Brentwood. We're going to start today's meeting with an invocation by George Johnson, and then we will do the pledge and four-way test, which will be led by Steve Huff.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we love you and we're so thankful for everything that you give us. We're thankful for every breath and every beat of our heart. We're thankful that you created us and gave us a life that can last forever with you. Father, we ask you to bless Rotary, bless our efforts here in this club, help us to make this a better community, help us to leave it better than we ever found it. And Father, help Rotary internationally to continue to promote peace in the world. We ask you to bless Jay Evans and his family on the loss of his father. And we ask you to continue to bless Bill McCarthy as he fights cancer. It's in Jesus' holy and blessed name that we pray. Amen.
If you'll face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the four-way test, +1 of the things we think, say, and do. First. Second. Third. And fourth. And
we certainly hope so.
And now our club secretary, Steve Hammers, will introduce guests.
It's on. All right, where's Lynn McGill? Lynn McGill. There you go. Lynn's got two guests. Would you like to introduce them?
Good afternoon. Am I on? Yeah. My guest today is my wife, Linda, who you've met before, and my other guest is Nancy Conway, who many of you know, and we're happy.
Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate it. Thank you. Where's Jack? I hadn't seen you yet today, Jack. Jack's got a couple of guests. Amy, Jack never met her.
He's very, very long.
Fred Rich.
Good to have you, Fred. We have one last guest, Harvey Chrisman, that I'm going to have our wonderful speaker, Alma, introduce him later. So glad to have you, Harvey. Thank you. That's all.
And next we'll do Happy Bucks, and Drew Rogers is going to do that for us today. Who's
Hot mic.
happy?
Hot mic. Okay. I do see some hands up. I'm going to pull a page out of the Alan Treadway book. I don't have any cash, but I'm going to put an IOU in this because I'm happy that I'm sitting with Amy Huey. She did introduce herself to me. She is a prospective member that currently works at the National Zoo. And she works in strategic partnerships at the zoo. And I think the zoo is branching out and looking into Williamson County to develop more strategic partnerships. I hope that you will introduce yourself to her and welcome her to the club. So I'm happy to be sitting with you, Amy. Wow.
I'm putting in $20. 50 years ago last night, we got married. And they're still married.
You don't want to put more money in there?
Test. There we go. I'm putting $1 in today. I'm happy. My oldest got moved into a dorm, first year of college. He is a Purdue Boilermaker. And while I've never been a Big Ten fan, I am now an adopted Big Ten fan. So boiler up.
So I'm putting this 20 in for Drew I don't want you to have an IOU. And when you were Albie, were there groupies that followed you around?
No comment. Anyone else there?
I have no idea how to work the camera here, so thank you for that. I've got 2 happy bucks. The first is Jared Tanksley. Yes, thank you for that. The first is Jared Tanksley told me that he had signed up at least 2 people more for the golf tournament. Larry's not here, so I'm channeling my inner Larry Kane for that part. And the other buck is really about Larry Kane. How hard Larry pushes all of us to do what we're supposed to do, right? To do what we want to do, to raise money for the club related to the golf tournament. What you may not know, I know a lot of you do, but what you may not know is Larry's going through a pretty tough time right now. Sue is sick and he's really taking care of her. And he's a little bit distracted with that. And we've got a golf tournament coming up in the next little bit. So I would ask all of us to do Larry a favor and do ourselves a favor and help do the right thing by taking the extra effort. If we've got people who haven't signed up for sponsorships yet, if we've got people on the fence about sponsorships, if you haven't yet signed up to your volunteer duty for the golf tournament, please help our friend Larry Kane out when he's going through a tough time. Please let us help each other out, help our community out by taking care of that right away. Thanks.
Well said, Lennis. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Seeing none, turn it back over to you, President Jane.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got a few announcements today. I think Susie has an announcement also related to golf.
So anyway, golf tournament, thank you so much for your announcement, Linus. That's great. I put on your table a tentative list of volunteers. I had so many awesome people who already said they wanted to volunteer. So I have you on a tentative list. If that time doesn't work for you or you want to do more or less, please let me know. Also with that list, if you do not see your name on there and you would like it to be on there, there are about 5 or 6 gray spots and those I need names for. So if you just put your name on there, I'll pick it up after the meeting. So thank you all for volunteering. I'll send confirmations out and we're going to try to work with Larry's schedule and arrange a trip for everybody to go out to Nashville Golf who's volunteering just to see what it's like. So we know where all the holes are and where everything is. But thank you so much. If you've already volunteered, thank you. If you're going to volunteer today, thank you also.
Thank you, Susie. Also, today is the last day to RSVP for our club social, which happens next Saturday evening. And I do want to point out to everybody that we're going to go 3 weeks without a Friday meeting. Next Friday, which is the day before the social, anyway, our facility was not going to be available. And then it was again at the last minute. And because we have multiple opportunities to Rotary in that time frame, we just elected not to fill it in. So we've got the social on Saturday night, and then we've got the golf tournament on Monday. Then the following week is Labor Day, so we would be taking that week off anyway. And then the week after that is one that we normally take off on a Friday because it is the First Responders Picnic on Thursday evening, September 8th. So everybody, please, there will be another RSVP coming your way for the First Responders Picnic. So please join us that Thursday evening to honor our Brentwood police and firefighters who protect us every day. Let's see. Jeff Brown has an announcement.
After COVID has settled down, the district and the zone have decided to re-engage with Rotary Leadership Institute, Rotary Graduate School. There are opportunities to become facilitators if you have completed RLIs Part 1, 2, and 3. And if you're interested in doing that, let me know and I can get you connected with the district coordinator. And to that end, on September 17th in Dixon is going to be RLI. I think it's all 3 sessions are going to be available then. So if you're interested in RLI, I would encourage you to sign up for that. Personally, RLI is what made me become a Rotarian as opposed to just a club member. And it's been a very, very positive experience. It was so good that I decided I wanted to be a facilitator, and that has been even more worth it. So please consider it. I think that will really enrich your Rotary experience.
Thank you, Jeff. And also just to add to that, the club every year but does get the presidential citation. And one of the goals for the presidential citation is to have a certain number of people participate in Rotary leadership training. So opportunities coming up, you can learn a lot and also help the club accomplish our goals. And then back to golf tournament. One last time, Tom Carr just pointed out, we normally have this golf tournament at the Brentwood Country Club. And just so that folks don't show up at the wrong place, it's at the Nashville Golf Club this year. And that's on Moores Lane. So Moores Lane, Nashville Golf Club, as opposed to Brentwood Country Club. And then finally, last but certainly not least, let's wish a happy birthday to somebody who does a whole lot of work for this club, Steve Passon, who is the treasurer for BRCCF. Sorry, Steve, but had to do it. Okay, we are finally ready to introduce our guests for today, and I'm going to ask club member Lynn McGill to come up and tee up our guest speakers.
I was asked to introduce our speaker, and yet I just met her, but I know a lady here, Nancy Conway, who has known her for a very long time. And I know many of you know Nancy. She is a senior vice president of community relations for the Williamson Chamber and is on a lot of, I guess you call them NGOs, and on their boards. And she's also on the board of the Columbia State Community College. And so Nancy, if you would come and introduce Alma. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. What a pleasure it is to be here today. And of course, Susie and I knew each other just a few years ago. And then I found out today that Susie and Lynn McGill went to the same school up in Illinois. So, it is a small world. But I'm here to tell you about Alma McLemore, who is your speaker today. Alma's a native of Williamson County, and she's retired from Middle Tennessee Electric. She's president and acting executive director of the African American Society. She's president of the McLemore House and 264 Natchez Street. And here we go with just a few of the many volunteer things, in addition to the ones I just mentioned, that Alma is involved in. She's a member of the Franklin Planning Commission, the Franklin Housing Commission. She's a board member of the Williamson County Convention and Visitors Bureau, a member of Habitat for Humanity, and she is a past board member of Columbia State Community College Foundation. She's a graduate of Leadership Franklin and the recipient of the Caroline Cross Award. She also, if she has any spare time, she's a realtor with Franklin Realtor. She's also a founding member of Community Housing. And Alma would probably never mention this, but I certainly can. And that is regarding Age Well of Middle Tennessee, that I'm fortunate this year to be serving as president of. And this is, of course, a not-for-profit entity that is looking at improving the lives of our seniors in numerous Middle Tennessee counties. We present the Sage Awards annually. So this fall, Alma, on October 3rd, will receive the Sage Award from Age Well, which we are just really excited about. So, Alma, we want to hear from you.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you, Nancy. Nancy and I have been friends for years and years and years and years and years, as she said. And we actually traveled together to the Columbia State Foundation board meetings. And we had so much fun. And I am officially old, y'all. I'm getting the Sage Award. That means you're officially old. And Nancy actually took me to the event where I was going to be honored or known to get the award. And we have this event in October 3rd where I will actually get it. But thank you, Nancy, for everything you do, for being my chaperone and being a dear friend. So she named some of the things and talked about some things about me, but we're not here to talk about me. I will tell you that I was born and raised here and I love my community. I love to serve. And she brought the Franklin Realtor part up, but I don't do real estate right now because I work for the organization. And Harvey, I will introduce him later, but we work for free. And y'all probably think that's crazy. Who works for free? Lots of volunteers. That's what Rotaries do, right? All of y'all are serving for free. So I know you all can relate to that. And it's many, many hours of service we do. But again, I'm not here to talk about Alma McLemore. I want to tell you about our organization, the African American Heritage Society. How many people know anything at all about us? How many people have Googled after you found out that I was speaking today? Did anybody Google to see what we're about? Well, after today, I want you to Google and find out more about us because I want Williamson County to know who we are. Do you know about the Carter House? How many people know about the Carter House? Do you know about the Carnton Plantation? Well, do you know that we're part of that whole picture? Because we had the Civil War, we had the plantations, the Civil War, then we had Reconstruction after the Civil War, right? What happened to all the African American enslaved that were free? Well, they were able to get educated and get skilled, learn jobs. Well, they were already skilled because they did all of the work on the plantations anyway, right? So they already knew how to work. But after that became Reconstruction. So that's where the McLemore House in 264 Natchez fits in. But first, I want to tell you all about the origin of our organization. It was founded back in 1992 by a group of concerned citizens who wanted to preserve and protect African American history. They were both Black and white citizens, and the Heritage Foundation, you all know about that, right? Well, it was going around. I mean, it was known nationally for saving and preserving historic places and places that matter, and they were doing an awesome job, but African American history was being left out. As a matter of fact, Harvey can tell you, we graduated from Franklin High School, but we were part of Natchez High School, which is a historic school that is now a convalescent center. Well, when that school closed, Williamson County closed the schools, but things were in disarray. Nobody even saved anything. People in the neighborhood picked up items and took them to their homes. There was no pictures and no things that should have been preserved that would tell that story of the African Americans that went to school during that time. That was important. That is important now. So we're trying to educate the community on the importance of not just a part of the story, but telling all. So the people got together. Mary Pierce, she was the director of the Heritage Foundation in Williamson County, and Rick Warwick, you all know him, Rick and Mary, well, they wanted to decided Mary and Nancy Conway was probably part of that because it was a bunch of people that were involved. And they started the organization, and it was chartered in 1997. And the community worked together. And suddenly there was an opportunity to preserve a home that was built by a former slave, the McLemore House. Harvey McLemore was a former slave that built this house, and his family lived in the home for 17 years. And Harvey is our vice president, but Harvey tells Harvey McLemore's story. Harvey Christman tells Harvey McLemore's story very well. And we've had, when we have tours, we have reenactors. Harvey's been a reenactor and he's great. And sometimes he probably feels like he's Harvey, the way he gets into the story. But yeah, Harvey McLemore built the house and we were able to save that house. And we have tours. We have people coming to see the house, and Harvey will tell you more about that story. And Harvey, and we just did a renovation. The house was first renovated in 2002. There was our first Black Tie event that was held that year to share with the community about the McLemore house. How many enslaved, how many homes that were built by slave people are still in existence? That's very, very rare. So this is a rare jewel, you all. It's in Williamson County, and I hope you can understand what we mean. Even though it's in Franklin, Williamson County has a lot of African-American history, and Brentwood has some awesome history too. It's so interesting to read about the things that are going on with the Brentwood Historic Society and what Brentwood is doing. So throughout Williamson County, lots of history is being continued to be told and preserved, and we can appreciate that. But the McLemore house, I want everybody to know what that is and what it means. And we have another house, 264 Natchez as well. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But Mary Pierce, who was the director, she talked to the Heritage Foundation and got them involved in the house. They purchased the house and they sold it to us for $1. It was going to be torn down by Habitat for Humanity, and they were going to build a Habitat home. I was on the board for Habitat. So there I was on the McLemore House board, on the Habitat board, and that house was going to be torn down. But they got involved, and Habitat actually sold the house to the Heritage Foundation, and Habitat actually put the first roof on the house. And the Heritage Foundation sold it to the African American Heritage Society for $1. So that was the beginning. So you see the unity even back then of us working together in the community to save these things and to make things happen. It takes us all. Doesn't matter what color you are. Just work together, come together, formulate your ideas, raise the money, and do it. And that's what they did. And after they purchased the house and they had the Black Tie, then, well, 20 years later, we have repairs that have to be done on the house. We got a grant from the state of Tennessee. We raised money. We just completed a project that was $128,000 to renovate that house. And the state of Tennessee gave us grant money. So they feel like it's important. Is anybody in here been involved with grants? Having to write grants? Is it easy? Is it easy to get the money? So they think it's important, the state of Tennessee. This house is important for Franklin, Williamson County, the state of Tennessee. This is America's story. Harvey's story is a story of America's story after the Civil War. So that the McLemore House Museum is very important. And we got our second renovation. We're doing really good things. We have porch talks over there once a month, the first of the month, starting like from April to October. And then after that, we call it fireside chats, but we don't really have a fire. We just chat. We just sit and chat. But we have special guests to come and share history with us, and the community is invited. It's a public event. It's free. You just go online and get tickets. So that's one of the things that occur at the McLemore House. We have the tours. We have the fireside, the porch talks, and we have First Fridays. You all familiar with the First Fridays, first of the month, and many cities have, like Franklin has the art crawl downtown. We've kind of added to that. We have from 5 to 8, we have a little event where you can come and get food, and then there's some artwork there, there's music, and then you get to come to the McLemore House free and do an abbreviated tour. Then you can come back later, if you'd like, and do a tour that tells the full story. But lots of good things are going on at the McLemore House. And then we have the Merrill Williams House. That's our second best treasure. We just acquired that. How many have heard of the Merrill Williams House, the newly acquired project on Natchez Street? Natchez Street is a historic district. It is on the National Register of Historic Places, y'all. And the McLemore House is in the Hard Bargain area. It's one of the one of two oldest African-American neighborhoods. Gentrification is setting in really, really strong, and many houses are being lost. I have no opposition to people building nice, wonderful, nice houses, but you have to maintain some character. You have to have community character. You have to show that things existed way beyond what's going on today. So we're trying our best to preserve as much as we can. So we're on 264 Natchez now. We're working with that project, and with Natchez Street, if you go down there, you'll see several homes have been destroyed, and then new homes are there. But we've got about 5 that we know that we can still have our National Registry designation. We've got the First Baptist Church. It was built in 1800s. We've got Shorter Chapel. It was built by and bricks were actually carried, the enslaved carried bricks to the church from downtown to an old church there that was being torn down, and they actually built that themselves. And that church still exists. And we have the Green Book House. How many of y'all have heard of the Green Book? Years ago, have y'all seen the movie? Well, that alerted so many people in Franklin. We didn't even know about the Green Book story, right, Harvey? And so when the Green Book came out, somebody said, oh, I know there's a house on Natchez. Think about this, Natchez Historic District. It's like all was already just destined to be. And we found out that that Green Book house was there. The lady that was there, you know, her address is listed in the Green Book. So that's a house that's got to be preserved as well. So we're working on that. And it belongs to Shorter Chapel Church. And then we have the Natchez School, and that closed in 67. We have that, and then we have the Merrill Williams house. Now that house was deeded to Merrill Williams, to Moses Merrill by his former slave owner. But Moses did not get to build the house. Actually, Tom Williams built the house. And how many people have heard of A.N.C. Williams? I want y'all to register that because this is important. For downtown Franklin, A.N.C. Williams is the only African-American owner that actually had a business in downtown Franklin, and his family inherited after him. But that's the only family that's ever had, and even today, A.N.C. Williams has a street named after him in Franklin that was done recently. He is that important to the history of Franklin. He was a free man in the 1800s downtown with the white people, and they adored him. They treated him very nice. His business was profitable. He was a leader. He stopped a riot. He was free when all of the African Americans were enslaved. So he is really a huge story in our community. So that's why the city of Franklin named a street after him, because it was important that people know about this and know about him. And his son, Tom Williams, is actually who built the house. So that's why the house at 264 Natchez is called the Merrill Williams house. And that house was built in the late 1800s. And we are in the process of renovating that house right now. Since gentrification was taking place all around the community, the properties on Natchez Street really got expensive. So this house is an old house and it needs a lot of work. I mean, it is bad, right, Harvey? It's in really deplorable condition. And the owner was my and Harvey's classmate. She was the only child of Fred Williams, who bought the property from Tom Williams, A&C's son. So anyway, she decided to sell the house because she lives in Memphis, and she listed the house for $699,000. Our little organization that had just finished the McLemore house, that does not have paid staff and paid director, right, Harvey? We were able, believe it or not, with the grace of God, were able to acquire that house. And I have to tell you, I have to add this little part in it. When we signed a option to purchase contract, Cassandra she didn't want us to lose the house either. But at the same time, developers were calling her, not a developer, developers. And the city of Franklin, well, they had already contacted the city, and developers could build 2 houses. It was zoned for 2 homes. So 2 big, nice, massive homes would have been on the property. And Cassandra didn't want that either, but if she's listing her property for $6.99 and she gets the money, what is she gonna do? She's gonna sell it, right? Even though it's her family's heritage. But anyway, we were able to be blessed and have her agree to $610,000 contract. And we had a year to raise the money. Well, we signed the contract. It started May 1st of 2021 to May 1st, 2022, it would have ended. And when we had our little meeting and had our little public thing telling the public about this and told the public, this is a community event and we want everybody's dollars. We'll take your millions, your $25, your $5, whatever, because we want it to be a community save. And that's what we're calling it now. So that was May 1st. Okay, June 18th, Juneteenth. How many people know what Juneteenth is? Good. Yeah. Anyway, Juneteenth, I was headed to our Juneteenth event. We had it at Pinkerton Park and I got a phone call. And it was a friend and she said, Alma, she said, I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning and I'm going to give you $500,000. I said, what? I don't even, no, I think I said a little bit more than what, but I was so excited. Anyway, she said, well, just, can you come to meet me on Tuesday? I said, sure. I mean, whatever, y'all, whatever was on my calendar, it was totally wiped out. And I didn't care. I mean, I would have met her that minute. But anyway, she said, meet me at the attorney's office. So I met her and her attorney and we sit down to sign the papers. And she said, I'm going to give you $1 million. How about that? Okay, and when we had that meeting, I had told the crowd, and Harvey and Nancy can attest to this, I had told the crowd, we have a year for the contract, but we are going to do this in 6 months. But, okay, calculate May 1st to June 18th. Is that even 2 months? Okay, when you, and I said, with the grace of God, you know, people thought it was a pie in the sky, that they will never raise that $610,000 for that house, they will never do it. Never, but nothing is impossible with God, right? And we got $1 million donation. We're working on that house right now, the Mel Williams house, and we're so excited about that. And we're really, really excited about our community being involved. So it is a community save, and the house is in Franklin. It doesn't matter that you're in Brentwood, you're part of Williamson County, and we want you to be a part of this effort. And we have many ways that you can do that, but we wanted to just let you know about the Merrill Williams House and about what our organization is doing. It was founded by four females and, well, 5 actually. 3 were retired teachers. The organization was founded by them. And also Miss Thelma Ballard, she was a lady who, she was retired as well, but she was going around into the community talking to lots of African Americans and amassing stories and photographs. And she's got a collection that is just amazing. It probably needs to be in the Smithsonian, right, Nancy? She's got so much that she's documented, and she's written 10 books. And she still lives here, and she's still writing books right now. She's writing her 2nd book on Natchez Street and on the Green Book House. So as we talk about preservation and saving and things like that, these founders are the ones who really got it kicked off. Rick Work is part of that, and Mary Pierce, and they did a tremendous job in getting our organization started. But right now we are doing really, really well. We have lots of programs. I mentioned the Porch Talks. We have Meredith Scholarship because education is important, because African Americans were not able to learn to read and write way back in slavery days. So we wanted to give back to the community through education. So we have scholarships that we give out each year. We've given out since 2015, we've given out $43,000 in scholarships. And this year we gave 9 high school seniors who are going on to college, and they're doing really amazing well. And I think we need to give our organization a hand. I have to say that scholarships, our youth are our future. You may say, what does that have anything to do with historic preservation? But our youth are our future, and we have to take care of our young people, right? And education is very expensive. We all know that. So that's why we have that segment. And we have a book club that we engage people. We select books, and then we have a diverse group of people that they give their assessment of the book, and it's just so fun. And people just spill it. They just tell what's on their mind and nobody's judging. There's no judgment there. We just got a lot of wonderful things going on, and let's see how many, oh goodness, I gotta hurry up. Let's see. We were the first ones that went to the city of Franklin about the Juneteenth holiday because we wanted to celebrate. We had been celebrating Juneteenth since 2004. And it's a celebration of freedom. And a lot of people didn't know what it was, but we had been doing it. And so a person approached us, and that's why we have to have unity and have people looking out no matter what. The guy that mentioned us, he's a very dear friend and supports our organization. And he's not Black, he's white. He said, Alma, we need to make Juneteenth a holiday. And I'm going to the city, I'm going to the county, I'm going to the state and national if I have to. So we actually went to the city and the mayor, they signed off, the board approved it. This was before the federal holiday. So that was another accomplishment that we did. And Brentwood gave a proclamation that year, and Nolan's for all of the communities got involved. And this was what, 2 years ago, Harvey? So this was before the federal government declared Juneteenth a holiday. So that was one of the things that came out of our organization. So lots of different things been going on, and we've been featured in magazines and all kinds of stuff. And Sybil told me to tell some of it, but I'm not going to do it because that's kind of like vanity. I don't want to be, you know, we want people to know about us, but I wish I could just hide my face and let's just talk about it without showing who I am, you know, but we have to be there has to be a face of the organization. So we was featured on 50 plus Channel 5. Do y'all know what 5 plus is? We were on that, and we were on 92Q and 104.5. That's a sports show. How did we get on 104.5? Well, they probably know that I love football. I love football. I do fantasy football. I love sport. Oh, I love it, love it, love it. Can't wait for the football season to start. So maybe that's why. But those are the places and the people that are hearing about our organization and about African-American history and that want to share. So if you haven't thought about it, if it hasn't been on your radar before, please think about it. Go to the website. We didn't pass out anything today. We did have this Save 264 Natchez. We've got it in our hands. We've got the profit, but we're still taking donations, but we didn't pass out anything because I know people are going paperless now, and people go to their phones and stuff like that. And usually if somebody hands you something, you kind of put it aside and you rather go to your phone, right? How many people in here, especially the younger generation, I mean, you don't want paper, do you? Right? So we didn't pass out any papers, but go to our website and you can find out a lot more about us. And at this time, I am going to stop and introduce Harvey Chrisman. Harvey is my dear friend. He graduated with me and Cassandra, the previous owner of the Mayor Williams house. And he is a veteran. Let's give him a hand. Veteran. They're number one on my list. They're number one on the list. And he's been he's vice president now. He serves with me as the vice president of the organization. He's very dedicated to his position as well. And we went to school together, and I'll let him tell you more about himself and about Harvey McLemore and why Harvey McLemore's story is important. And by the way, I am not a direct descendant of Harvey McLemore. I married into the McLemore family. People always ask me, well, are you a descendant? No, I'm not, but I married into the McLemore family, so many people ask that question. But at this time, we'll just have Harvey come up and tell you a little bit about himself and anything else that he'd like to add. And then if y'all have any questions after that, we'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Whoa. Unlike Alma, I'm an introvert. I don't like speaking in front of people. I'm more the behind the scenes person. But I didn't learn my lesson. Like Alma said, I was a veteran. Now I did something, my father looked at me and asked me what was wrong with me. When I went into the military, I decided I wanted to be a parachutist. I didn't know what I was doing. When I found out, I was jumping out of airplanes. Good old C-130s. Now I also learned right there as I did parachute training, somebody forgot to tell me, don't be volunteering. And so one day they was asking for volunteers to do certain things. So he went around, and different people volunteered. And DI said, I need one more volunteer. I looked around, I said, okay, threw my hand up. Come on. Can y'all think where I am? 150 feet in the air. I'm going up. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? All of a sudden, he said, hold on. And it hit a switch and just dropped me. And I'm looking 100 feet up in the air. I got a parachute over top of me. I had never been in the air before. Not that high, and just like jumping off a mountain. And when I finally hit the ground, I got up, and the drill instructor looked at me and said, I bet you'll never volunteer for anything else, will you? So I still haven't learned my lesson yet. I say that to say that when Alma asked me to come and help her, I said, okay, I'll do it for a little while because I just had finished a term as the commander of the American Legion Post. And that was the job. I had been a plant supervisor. I had worked Bridgestone, Firestone for about 32 years. I was a health and safety representative. So it was my intention to retire, go home, sit back, and take it easy. Not worry about anything or whatever. I'm just going to enjoy my grandkids. I said, okay, well, once again, I didn't listen to my DI. Don't volunteer. So I decided, okay, I'll help you out for about a year. I think that was almost 10 years ago. But let me ask this question. How many of you know about your own family's history? How far back? How many generations? Can you go back 3, 4, 5 generations on your families? You know, as a young person, you never think about your family's history. You know your parents and you know your grandparents, but you never think about your great-grandparents, and you never think about your great-great-grandparents. I've lived in Franklin all my life. I used to hear about the Carter House, Cotton Plantation, all those places. Didn't want to go. But when I joined the African American Heritage Society, something happened. We started learning about history. I started picking up books. I started reading. I started listening to the History Channel. I started looking at NPR when it came on. Found out that history repeats itself. And you can learn a whole lot about your own family. You can learn a lot about the communities that you live in. Now, how many people here are originally from Williamson County? Now you look, now that's 4 or 5 of us that are originally from Williamson County, and everyone else has moved in. So now, I had another one of my classmates. His name is Tommy Jackson. We were talking one evening. He said, you know, Chrisman, we live in this county all our life. We're less than 10% of the population that's been here. How much do we really know about our county? So I started thinking about it. I really didn't even think about it. So I started researching, looking at my own family's history. I knew where the family lived at and where they stayed, but I didn't know that family property has been in our possession for over almost 150 years. I didn't know until I started researching that my great-great-great-grandmother was what they call a mulatto. Her father was a plantation owner. And he left her property so that she would have a home and her descendants would always have a place to stay. And it's still a family on that property right now. and we have a family cemetery. So as I started thinking about that, I started looking at our children. I used to run around this whole county, different places. Brentwood, we had a whole lot of Black people stayed in Brentwood, right there on Church Street, area called Hardscuffle. I spent many weekends on Hardscuffle. I either went to Thompson Station, Duplex, College Grove, Nolensville, Troy, all these places you never thought about. But families, Black families and white families were scattered out all over. We actually worked and lived together. Now I stayed on Granbury Street, which everybody know about BJ before it moved out this way. BJ was right around the corner for me. But I talk to people, I say, well, you know, Franklin has always been somewhat of an integrated neighborhood or kind of city, because you have one or two streets where it was Black, and I could turn around in my backyard and look, and this white family stayed right there close by. So the history is there. You know, the old saying is, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat your past. You start thinking about it. How many do you people believe, how many do you believe in the Bible and Christ? Now, if you look at the Bible, how often does it repeat itself? How often does Jewish race repeat the same mistakes? The same mistakes over and over and over again. We don't pass on our history. We are afraid to tell our history because sometimes the history is not good. Now, Harvey McLemore, I'm gonna take away Harvey Christmas right now, and I'm gonna try to bring out a little bit of Harvey McLemore. Now, my name is Harvey McLemore. I was born somewhere around about 1829. My owners were Atkins and Pathina McLemore. I can't tell you too much about my life because I was a slave. But as a slave, even as a small child, I had a job to do. So in the morning time, when I turned at least about 4 or 5, I had things I had to do. I either gathered in the wood, the corn, making sure master was okay, making sure the mistress was okay. I did that. And when I got old enough, I had to go out in the fields and work. Now, I'm gonna say something may be strange to some people. Sometimes the master was right there by my side working. Master didn't always be in the big house. Now, on some of these old plantations right here in Williamson County, we call them plantations, but it was only just people who owned maybe 1 or 2 slaves, so they had to work too. So we all worked together. Now, I'm gonna say something strange now. As I grew up, Atkins passed. So that was left with Pathina. You know, women back in those days, they really couldn't be owners of their own plantations and their own property. So Pathina had to sell. Luckily, old Atkins, he had another brother, W.S., old William Sugars McLemore. W.S. purchased me and the rest of the plantation, all the property. That includes all the people, all the chattel slaves. So over time, I worked on my own plantation. I gained some skills. I learned how to do a little bit of, just a little bit of something, as my say. I worked a little bit of this, but I wasn't a master of none, but I could work and do it. I could build and I could farm. Now, as I grew old, then we started hearing things, you know. Old slaves, we ain't supposed to hear about anything. We ain't supposed to say nothing, but we could hear. We knew what was going on. We heard about old Abe Lincoln and that old Civil War. That old war that's coming. And they kept telling us, man, if that war comes, it's gonna mean freedom. It's gonna mean freedom. And one day it did. That fight broke out. Now, I know some of you people heard about the old Battle of Franklin. I stayed over there on WS's property, McLemore Farms, right there on that old Columbia Highway. One night, we heard a loud clash, a loud boom, boom, boom. Hey, boys, I think it's coming this way. It's coming this way. And there I was. Eventually, that old war was over. And I was set free. Now, me and OWS, we had developed a relationship. You might would say we grew up together. So Reconstruction era started. That old Freedmen's Bureau came to Franklin. And they started doing the sharecropping. OWS said, Harvey, you want to work out a deal? You know how to work this farm. You know everything that's going on. Sure, just give me, old Abe said we're gonna get 40 acres and a mule. I don't think that's gonna happen, but I'm gonna sharecrop. So me and WS worked out a deal. I sharecropped with OWS about 40 acres. So that was in 1865, 1866. I'm an industrious person. I had dreams. Just like anybody else. I had dreams. I wanted my home. I wanted my farm. So I'm gonna work. So over on the old cotton plantation over there on Lewisburg Pike, I did 40 more acres. So I'm sharecropping about 80 acres. Years go by. OWS had found out about some property here in Franklin. He decided he wanted to go ahead and buy that property over on a place they call Hard Bargain. So that's around about 1873. That's when OWS bought that property. But I kept on working on sharecropping for WS. In the meantime, OWS had bought some land here in Franklin, right there on the old West Main Street, they call it, and started building this house. So in addition to my sharecropping, I would help OWS out of his home. Finally, after OWS and bought him about 15 acres over there on the old Hard Bargain area, he approached me one day. Harvey, you want to buy some property? I began to think, this is my opportunity. I've been saving my money, waiting for this time. So I bought me, instead of one lot, I didn't get 40 acres, but I bought 4 lots. So I decided to build my own home. Right there on the corner of 11th Avenue and Green Street. I built a home with my hands for my family. Now, I had been talked about education, impressing upon our kids and the ones who came behind us to get educated. I'm proud to say I only had one child, but that child made me proud. Her name was Maggie. I don't know where this child got this idea from. If I had worked and worked, I thought maybe she was gonna stay here in Franklin. Now this child of mine decided that she gonna move to New York. What? I said to her, where you going? No, I'm going to New York. I'm gonna learn how to be a beautician. So she went to New York to study to be a beautician. And she did come back to Franklin. In addition to being a beautician, she also went to school and she got her high school degree. She went to a Catholic school in Nashville. So the impression upon her to be educated, I'm glad she did. And my great-great-grandkids, I'm so proud of them. As to say, we can learn. We learn how to speak English. We learn how to work the farms. We learn how to build homes. We learn all other kind of craftsmanship. So even though I didn't learn how to read and write, my expectation was for my family to learn and read and write. So right here in little old Franklin. Now, if y'all was sitting in my house, I'll be sitting on the porch sometimes. I can look across the street and I can see across the street that there's my great-great-granddaughter who's now the principal of the elementary school. So knowing your history and knowing just a little bit about your own families and knowing that African Americans, Black people, we can be educated, but we can't let the past keep repeating itself. Now it's almost at 1 o'clock hour. I know y'all have some more business to attend to. So, and thank you for allowing me to come.
Thank y'all so much. We have so much we can share. We would be here all day. I should have let Harvey get up and he could have told that whole story. I didn't have to get up at all. Because don't you all feel like you know Harvey McLemore now? And don't you feel like you want to come to the McLemore House Museum? And one more thing, I always say this to people when we talk about the McLemore House, and I always quiz people when I see them later. The house was built in 1880 and the family was in the home for 117 years. So if I see some of y'all now, I mean, this is something, 1880 is very easy to remember. And so I will ask, and I hope you all will say, oh yeah, it was built in 1880. So thank y'all so much for having us. And hopefully you can go online and get more information about our organization. And we really appreciate it. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Alma and Harvey. What we typically do at the end of our meetings is give our guest speaker the gift of a pen that has our club logo on it. And we ask you to sign a book that we read to first graders that talks about Rotary, but we also tell the kids about the speaker who signed the book. So I'm going to put this on the table and ask you guys to sign the book. And thank you so much. That was a really great program. Thank you for coming. And if there's nothing else, Linus has something else.
Chairs and tables, if you're stacking chairs, stacks of 8. We have gotten a special request,
Oh.
8 chairs to a stack.
Okay. Okay, 8. Okay, stack the chairs 8 high. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.